Homeward Bound 2, Lost in San Francisco. The general consensus for this movie is that it falls just a little bit short of its predecessor, but I'm not here to regurgitate other people's opinions at you, so what do I think of the movie? Well, first off, I like how consistent the writing is. The first line of dialogue is, "My name is Chance, and this is home." Just an effortless extension of Chance's character arc from the first movie. And for all the good things I have to say about this movie, it seems they spent an accumulated 10 seconds looking for a dog that looks like Chance from the first movie. Nah, I'm only joking. The difference isn't really that jarring. Shadow and Sassy look pretty much identical to their original counterparts though. And it's not like each role belonged to any one pet anyway. In the first movie alone, Chance was played by 4 different dogs, as was Shadow, and Sassy was played by 10 different cats. I imagine they needed separate sets of actors for jumping scenes, swimming scenes, close-ups, etc. What I'm getting at here is that there isn't any one physical actor associated with these characters. However, there is only one voice for each of them. In both movies, Michael J. Fox is Chance, Sally Field is Sassy, Shadow is complicated. In the first movie, Shadow was voiced by Don Amici, but tragically, he lost his battle with cancer only a month after the first movie was released. Ralph White took up the mantle for the sequel, and though it's unfortunate that Don was not able to reprise his role, Ralph does a fine job here. Coming back to the story now, Chance and Sassy somewhat squashed the beef in the first movie, but they're right back to squabbling at the start of this one. This is normal though, this is just standard sibling behaviour. Acting as though everything was just going to be sunshine and rainbows would be unrealistic. All of the human actors reprise the roles, but they play a less significant part in this story. The family are going on holiday, taking the pets with them this time, but of course they have to be put in kennels before they board the plane. And of course, Chance panics and thinks that it's all happening again because of a handful of disconcerting signs. He doesn't want to go back to the bad place and breaks free of his kennel. Of course, Sassy and Shadow can't leave him on his own, so they bust out too. They try to chase down their humans, but they fail as they are currently on a plane. They dart back and forth for a while until they finally come back to the runway. Stood in a line, our trio face down an oncoming plane, deciding a game of chicken is the best route to take in hopes that it will stop. Of course, it doesn't. Admittedly, the first movie's justification for the plot seemed a lot more plausible, if not realistic. Sometimes you just have to get someone else to take care of your pet for a while. With this one, it seems a little bit more contrived. At least they had it so that it was only Chance that messed it up this time. So it's sort of in keeping with his character. He's a good boy, but he's not exactly the brightest bulb, is he? Night falls and our trio decides to spend the night in an alleyway. Shadow drags a cardboard box over for them to sleep in, reinforcing his role as top dog, taking care of Chance and Sassy. It's around this time the Seaver family find out that their pets didn't make it onto the plane. We get more consistent theming with the fatherly bond Bob shares with his non-biological children, as they refer to him as dad just as they did at the end of the first movie. Whether or not this is intentional, the consistency of the writing is appreciated. The following morning, the animals establish that their next destination is the Golden Bridge that they crossed yesterday, obviously in reference to the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. Next up we get an interaction with a 4th dog, a poodle tied up outside of a shop. She talks in a French accent. There's just something about the accent that makes it hilarious when she calls this guy a fat pig. Now you may be wondering who this guy is, and that's probably because I haven't told you. Well, he's part of a duo that drives around looking for dogs to steal. Now, of all the threats our protagonists faced in the first movie, none of them were human, so this is new territory here. That being said, they did think the pound workers were a threat in the first movie, but they weren't really. Sometime later they start bickering over food. Sassy puts the charm on this kid sitting on a doorstep. She notes, where there's a cat, there's cat food. Of course, Chance runs towards them once he sees that it's working, fumbling the whole operation. The trio bump into some more dogs a little bit further down the path. A boxer named Ashkan and a bull mastiff called Pete. They've got some silly accents going, though Chance and co are stepping on their turf, so tensions spark between the two parties. Ashkan threatens Sassy and of course Chance comes to her defense.
Nobody messes with the cat but me.
Another reminder that they do truly care for each other, even though they're at each other's throats non-stop. Shadow tells Sassy to run, and a dogfight breaks out. Eventually it's broken up by another gang of dogs, though at first Sassy assumes it's reinforcements. Chance bolts, aiming to act as a decoy. Now we have a variety of new faces. Delilah, who is sent to fetch Chance back. Stokey, Spike, Sledge, Bando, and Riley. Bando immediately asks where Delilah's been sent off to because she's his girlfriend, though Sledge dismisses this and adds,
"Yeah, right, not in this lifetime."
After a rather intense chase sequence, Chance pounces on Delilah. This power shift doesn't last very long, as she overpowers him, but they soon become acquainted with one another, maybe a little bit more than that. Shadow asks Riley about the bridge, and Riley declines to help. as a bridge would mean there's too many people around, and it is very clear that Riley has a deep mistrust in humans. And you can't exactly blame him after this close call with the dog nappers. Riley's gang refer to them as the Blood Red Van. Very foreboding. Anyway, after the van is gone, Shadow and Sassy split from Riley's gang, and then we transition back to Chance and Delilah, who seem to be having the time of their lives. Delilah warns Chance to stay away from people playing frisbee, and it's not because they're playing frisbee, even though that is a bit weird. It's because Riley has warned her that you can't trust humans. Chance does come to the humans' defense though, explaining how much he loves Jamie, and telling Delilah about how his humans gave him a home. It's here that we're given Riley's backstory. A picturesque Christmas morning, an adorable puppy under the tree, wrapped in a red ribbon. The little boy whom this pup was to belong to turns him away, completely disinterested. So they left Riley on the side of the road with only a cardboard box to shield him from the torrential rain. Over the years, Riley had collected a multitude of strays to give them the family that he never had. A little further down the road, Chance and Delilah come across a pack of sea lions. And Chance informs Delilah, this is what happens when dogs stay in the water too long. I think that's just a hilarious explanation as to why dogs hate getting a bath. Some sort of inside joke about sea lions. We cut to the blood red van again. The goofball in the passenger seats throws his lit stogie out into the weeds, and in turn, it sets them ablaze. Sassy and Shadow walk into a horrifying scene. The house in flames. The fire has spread. It's the same house where Sassy had previously tried to get cat food from. Shadow tells her that the boy must still be inside, and he doesn't hesitate to run through the basement window to help him. Riley and the gang are watching from afar, shocked that he cares for the humans this much. Shadow pulls the boy out of the fire, and Riley is waiting outside. Most of them commend him for his bravery, but Riley asks him if he thinks humans would have done the same for him. Shadow replies,
My boy Peter would.
Stokey then tells Shadow,
Hey, your cat friend's still in there.
Panicked, Shadow turns to the fire. Thankfully, Sassy makes it out and pulls the boy's kitten out with her. Riley invites Shadow and Sassy back to the hideout for the night. And it's back at the hideout that they find Chance and Delilah all loved up. Bando gives resistance as he's rather fond of Delilah, though she reminds him that they are just friends. It's made quite clear that this is just a case of delusion on Bando's part. It's not like they've been through a breakup or anything. After much consideration, Riley agrees to take Shadow to the bridge. While Chance is distracted fighting this pile of garbage, Shadow speaks with Delilah, explaining that Chance isn't like the rest of the strays. He doesn't have what it takes to survive in the city. Shadow tells her, for Chance's safety, she has to let him go, though she insists that she can take care of him. Like clockwork, the blood red van comes around, stalking Chance, who is still fighting this bin bag. They sneak up on him and entice him with a cheeseburger. Just when he's vulnerable, they snag him and put him on a leash. Instinctively, he calls out for his protector, and it's not Delilah, it's Shadow. Though it isn't just Shadow that runs out for him. Every single member of the gang sprints after the van once it takes off. Riley tells everyone to switch paths so they can cut the van off. The goofball turns around and just blows smoke at the dogs. He's a real scumbag, just a pure degenerate, man. Obviously he's written this way, but what I'm saying is that the actor sells it really well. They turn a corner and are blocked off by Riley's gang. Dingus hijacks the wheel to run the dogs over. All the other dogs move out of the way except for Delilah. And when the van hits her, Bando declares war on the blood red van. An attempt is made to flee. Sassy unlocks the back doors of the van, freeing Chance and all the other dogs. Bando gets rid of the van for good, knocking it into reverse. Finally, the dogs have a win under their belts. So after the celebrations, Delilah lets Chance down easy, following Shadow's advice. Devastated, Chance wanders off alone. Shadow comforts Delilah, assuring her that this was the right thing to do. It's getting dark, and though they've searched for Chance, he's nowhere to be found. Riley gives Shadow an ultimatum. He is willing to take them to the bridge, but this offer isn't going to be on the table forever. Sassy nudges Shadow to accept the offer, reminding him that they can't just endlessly search for Chance, they must also find their humans too. Once they arrive at the bridge, Riley tells Shadow that he'll keep in mind all he said about the humans. They part ways with mutual respect. First, to get to the bridge, they must cross a construction site. They both stop and agree that they can't just leave Chance behind. Home wouldn't be the same without him. And in that moment, Ashcan and Pete put her onto the scene. A good day for a swell battle. Chance bursts back into frame. Ashcan and Pete follow him as the decoy method actually works this time. They chase him through a pipe and he rolls it down off of a rooftop. Yikes, man. I bet that didn't tickle. And so the second journey nears its end. They cross the bridge and make it back to the suburbs. As Shadow and Sassy push forward, Chance takes a moment to look back on the city, missing Delilah. Bob, Laura and the kids were tailing this truck as it came to a sudden halt. Bob rushes to the trucker, who explains, that there was a dog in the middle of the road. Bob stops Jamie and softly explains why the truck has stopped. Jamie runs to the front of the truck and looks underneath. Chance is under there, not a scratch on him. Although everyone is excited to be home, everybody knows that there's something wrong with Chance. The humans assume that he's just tired, but we know the real reason. A particular familiar bark reaches from the distance, and just as he starts to doubt his sanity, there she is. It doesn't take long until they've kissed and made up. Anxiously, Delilah steps toward Jamie and the rest of the family. Being born a stray, she doesn't really know what to expect from humans, but thankfully, the introductions couldn't go any better. Peter notices that she doesn't have a collar and concludes that she's a stray. Everyone, including Chance, asks if she can stay. Bob understandably hesitates at first, but he agrees and Chance jumps for joy. Now, he's back home and it's the best of both worlds. And to make it even better, hell yeah, we get this hilarious shot of the pizza slapping him in the face as it falls, and then the credits roll. Well, that was an incredible journey. About a month ago, I watched both of these movies back to back. The characterization of the animals and the humans remains the same through both movies. They're not cinematic masterpieces or anything, but it's hard to really nitpick anything wrong here. I have to continually commend the physical acting of the dogs. It's just brilliant. Also, I like how, even though the characters follow on perfectly from the first to the second, the settings and overall feel of both movies are very different. The first movie focuses more on the dangers of nature and how out of their element these house pets are, whereas the second movie focuses more on other dogs, but the real villains are the humans this time around. Chance develops his love for humans. He's a completely different dog by the end of the sequel compared to the start of the first movie. Same with his other half. She goes through the exact same arc throughout the second film. There really is a lot going on under the hood here for what you would just consider a kids movie. Man, I think the critics got this one wrong. Frankly, I feel as though the setting for the first movie was more interesting and the risks did feel more greater. And though the second film falls ever so slightly short, it surpasses the first in so many ways. It's crazy how they actually managed to make each and every one of these minor characters unique and memorable, when some of them are literally just a voice. It can be gut-wrenching to revisit something you used to love and find out it's not as good as you remember, but it's something really special to revisit something you once loved and discover that it's even better than you remember. I intend to cover more movies like this and just more movies in general, so stick around for that if you're interested. But anyway, yeah, that's me. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.